Quindi, che devo dire? Okay. So, ora partiamo, okay?
Allora ragazzi, welcome everyone to this conference, to this meeting, and I'm really proud and honored to be here because this is the first time we are organizing a conference on a very important topic within the School of Fashion here in Florence. So the first thanks goes to both Pat Kinsella, who is here, brava, and Sara Paci, who is here as well. Both organizers from the beginning of this initiative. I remember that during lockdown we had some conversations on the topic, which is very fascinating to me as well, not from your perspective, but by my trade, which is that one of being a Renaissance historian, because the anxiety of perfection is one of the anxieties, that human beings have shared all over their history and legacy. And investigating the digital world as the last fantasy and trying to understanding if this can be considered and perceived as something real is exactly the topic which fascinated me a lot within my career as a scholar on the Renaissance ideal city. Because trying to obtain something unique, something theoretical but perfect, is one of the anxieties which moved human beings through its history. So, welcome to this event. I turn the floor to Professor Pat Kinsella, and I thank you very much for being here.
Welcome again. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to those of you who may be following us in streaming on YouTube. So I would just like to introduce this day by explaining to you that in the fall of 2019, when Sarah Piccolopachi proposed the idea of examining the relationship of fashion and the world of video gaming as the theme of a conference, it seemed a fascinating yet esoteric subject. I basically thought of, teenage boys sequestered in their bedrooms, glued to their computer. Today, after having spent almost 2 years in my bedroom, sequestered, glued to my computer, the whole idea has taken on a little different aspect. To different degrees, we have all been forced to conduct our work, social, and even our family lives online, in the metaverse, if you will. Even all my boomer friends have now set up green screens to project their Zoom backgrounds, or figured out how to create more attractive avatar versions of themselves to attend virtual meetings. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but I'm getting there. Today, we tentatively emerge from the pandemic isolation into a situation of extreme international tension that could bring a new world order. It is a moment of incredible, and I would say, at least in my life, unprecedented uncertainty. The fashion industry faces momentous challenges. Adding to the pressing issues of sustainability, we now face broken supply chains, skyrocketing energy prices that threaten production, and economic instability that disrupts our markets. In the middle of all this, as we ideate our new collections, we still have to answer the all-important, if seemingly banal question, what do people want to wear? As educators, our curriculum covers many historic, aesthetic, and technical subjects: color theory, computer skills, how to draw, how to drape, cut, and sew, how to create a line sheet, a sales projection, and a marketing plan, among many others. However, the successful application of these skills depends on our understanding of society, of the cultural moment, of our perception of what people want to wear. To that end, it is of fundamental importance to know what is going on in the world, and not just on the catwalk, but in economics, socially, politically, and culturally as well. Chaos theory tells us that nothing novel can come from systems with a high degree of order and stability. On the other hand, completely chaotic systems, such as stampedes or wars, are formless to make any sense. However, between the two extremes of order and chaos, there is a transition phase called the edge of chaos. In this phase, the components of the system never quite lock into place, but they do not descend into complete turbulence either. The edge of chaos is the moment when new ideas and innovations can challenge the status quo. In that sense, our current chaotic edge and the disruption of the old paradigms can be viewed as a harbinger of unexpected opportunity if we are prescient and courageous enough to seize the moment. Today, our speakers will shed light on these opportunities as they take us through the looking glass and share their experiences and insights on the metaverse. First of all, I would like to introduce Sarah Piccolopachi, who introduced me to the metaverse and also many of you. And Sarah also worked with the students, with all of you, this semester on this theme. So Sarah is a scholar and a fashion historian. She is quite an experienced professor. She has taught at Kent State as well as NYU, Polymoda, Fashion Institute of Technology, and the University of Florence. She has also published widely and spoken at many conferences. So here to speak on Metaverse Utility, a student perspective, I present Sarah Piccolopachi.
Nice to see you all, finally, not virtually, but in presence, actually. Okay, better like this? Okay, thanks. Can you put my slides on? I would like to, first of all, thank the organization, actually Pat, and the director for having allowed this conference going on. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit with a low tone of voice, so maybe it's a little too high, I don't know. And I would like to introduce you into what we have done during these 2 years, and then into these recent months with all of you. Can you move the slide, or shall I do it from here? Here, okay. So, a few days ago, I found this article online, very interesting. Metaverse suffer extensive damage in riot at virtual art gallery. Digital police have arrested dozens of avatars who rampaged at a virtual art gallery party in the metaverse, causing damage to NFT objects worth billions of dollars. It is understood that the intruders were avatars representing real-world artists and designers who are angry at the fact that NFT objects are selling for higher prices than their physical creations. It was Meta, said one invitee who did not wish to be named. A few minutes after the first punch, the portal flew open and dozens of police officers uploaded themselves. Luckily, I managed to press escape just in time. Several attendants later reported a loss of resolution, wiped memories, and increased latency, claiming that police had exceeded their bandwidth during the raid. Witnesses said the metaverse itself suffered extensive damage when police, who had been on their way to a virtual firing range for a shoot-'em-up away day when they were called to the gallery, tried to break up the fight by opening fire with shoulder-mounted rocket launchers. The fusillade tore holes in the fabric of the virtual universe, creating a wormhole between the gallery and an online multiplayer war game. Hundreds of heavily armored characters fell through the void and continued their battle in front of shocked art lovers, causing further damage. Several attendees lost their lives, but were able to reboot themselves by turning their computers off and on again. As Dyson went to press, engineers were attempting to fix the rips in the metaverse with cyber glue. Okay. The article came on April 1st, so good April Fool, of course. But the fact is that for a few minutes, probably, we have been looped into the narration of this article. Because the most of us really don't have the language, are not really into what is going on, to be able to understand immediately that it is an April Fool. When with Pat Kinsella and we were thinking about how to build up this conference, we wanted to create the opportunity for our students to explore some of the aspects of current digital worlds, not strictly and not only limited to the upcoming glamorous fashion ones. As a matter of fact, I proposed the same topic already a few years ago, and that was not yet interested for the school. But now, as Pat said just before, time has come up. It's the moment that we are speaking about these things as well. The pandemic has accelerated a trend that many of us had already seen approaching a long time ago. And fashion is now blooming into the digital universe of virtual reality, video gaming, ER, and what is the mysterious metaverse. I put here just two images to show you an idea of these. And the first one is the collection, which has been solely digital at the London Fashion Week, June 2021, Ouroboros, for XR Studio Riot. And the second is an article, which is very interesting, by Kathy Hackle, How Brands Can Thrive in the Direct-to-Avatar Economy, Cookies on Forbes, in which she points that the games and the open worlds will be common language from now on. But true is that the virtual world is frightening, okay? It has many dark sides. Here I found a comics which is about escapism and what all of us know actually when we are at home, we have maybe a day off and we want to do a lot of things, and then we end by just playing video game all the day long, or just doing socials or looking at stuff, losing time in this way. It is true that the uncontrollable potentialities of the digital world are scaring. And I always like to say that I remember when I was young and long time ago, when the digital world was just approaching, we were looking at the computer as something really scaring for us. We didn't know if turning off at the evening was allowing us to turning it on in the morning. And I already said it during our lesson. It was like, for us, we were approaching a jungle, a world with really nothing known. And now it's different. For you, it's different for sure. You have now other impressions about this world. But it is true that it is still scaring, and there are many aspects which are scaring. This is a very interesting speech which I suggest you to look at. It's on YouTube by Hassan Minaji. It's the dark side of the metaverse, actually, of the video gaming industry in particular, in which the speaker is pointing that the video gaming industry and in general the digital industry has many dark sides as well. So it's not just the escapism, the problem. The problem is also that it is still an uncontrolled industry, and it's normal to be scared also of these aspects as well. But it's also true that the pandemic has opened this world also to the commoners, to everyone. And one of the aspects that the pandemic has brought to us, to our attention, is the discovery by fashion of the video game world and its dynamics, also socially speaking, actually, as well as its potential under the aspect of the marketing research, for instance, or the selling of stuff online. Online gaming as a marketing platform has already attracted many brands. We all know it. In the current moment, there is a very fast growth of interest around these themes, especially about cultural products inspired by the aesthetic ecosystem of the video gaming and movie-related industry. We are discovering what avatars are, what skins are, but also what possibilities the metaverse offers in terms of creativity and of audience. And there are many virtual worlds, not only one. There are the ones of fashion, the ones of video gaming, augmented virtual reality, illustration, and so on, which can allow us to reflect on if they are really something uncontrolled and uncontrollable, or if it's something that is connected to the logical continuation of our reality. And that's why I put these two aspects as well. One, it's a video, actually a short video of GDCC's collections. It's for the Milan Fashion Week of 2021. You can recognize the avatar or the representations avatar of FedEx and Chiara Ferragni as auditor and viewer of the collection itself, and then the collection hosts also images of characters taken inspired by the video gaming industry in general. The other one is a program, actually. It's an interesting program with which we can create virtual clothing. It's Tilt Brush fashion for fashion design, actually, and this is the VR Scout, in which you can really create with a virtual brush, virtual cloth by making them. And also this is interesting. It's also this an aspect of creativity. So when with Pat we thought to how to offer a perspective of the possible jobs that this new situation could offer to you as a students and future professionals, beyond the traditional channels of the fashion industry, we desired this meeting. And we will have 3 experts offering different perspectives on this word shortly. But we also wanted to equip you as a students, and we asked you to do some more preparatory activities, which I started by a little introduction lecture on the topic, which we had online, because we were making it on remote, and followed by a questionnaire, and I would like to give you the results of your questionnaires, actually, to understand what you already knew. And finally, we asked each of you to make a short research on related topics. The list of topics to look for included general concept, e-company names, famous video game titles, iconic characters. As a plus, we asked also to record a few seconds video with your impressions and on these activities, and you will see the results at the end of the day in our presentation at the end. So the short questionnaire actually was interesting on many aspects. First of all, we have to underline an aspect which is connected with our plateau of students. The most of you are girls. And this matters because traditionally, the world of video games, computers, and technology are seen as worlds for boys, even if things are really seriously changing nowadays. But it's an important aspect to understand also the extent of the questionnaire. To the question, what is the digital gaming, the digital video game world for you, a quarter answered that is linked to the world of social networks. 21% circa admitted to having played it. 12% thought it was unexplored territory. Almost a third thought that it was just a form of escapism from reality, and only a small percentage, 13%, thought it could have been a research tool, but admitted not to having really explored it. The fact is that by many, gaming and video gaming in particular are seen only as a sort of escapism from reality, a simplistic way to find relief from everyday life problematics. And this is certainly true, but it's not all. When Attis was king of Lydia in Asia Minor some 3,000 years ago, a great scarcity threatened his realm. For a while, people accepted their lot without complaining, in the hope that times of plenty would return. But when things failed to get better, the Lydians devised a strange remedy for their problem. The plan adopted against the famine was to engage in games one day so entirely as not to feel any craving for food, and the next day to eat and abstain from games. In this way, they passed 18 years, and along the way they invented the dice, knucklebones, the ball, and all the games which are common. We don't know if the story is true or not, but this is Herodotus, the 5th century before Common Era, and it's true that the human beings learns by gaming. And many games have an important position in terms of problem solving, as it is underlined by Jane McGonigal, Director of Game Research and Development Institute for the Future, from which the citation is taken from her bestseller book, actually, is Reality is Broken, Why Games Make Us Better, of 2011. She says, to develop foresight, you need to practice hindsight. And it is very interesting, this aspect, because I think, as also our director pointed, that we really live in a very difficult period, unprecedented. We haven't had these challenges like these since decades. So it's really interesting, the blooming of the video gaming as an industry into this time that we are living in. Maybe it's not just escapism. Maybe it's a solution. Maybe. But even more than hindsight, to better predict the future, we should exercise critical thinking. The challenges of the contemporary worlds could be better addressed if we learn to dig deep inside, and instead of just surfing the surface, maybe it's time to change the word for how to relate to the web. No longer surfing, but diving. The questionnaire again went on by asking you, do you play or have you ever played with video games? And a good amount says, yes, the simplest one, the one to pass time on your device probably. Yes, but single-player games like The Sims or Assassin's Creed for a good 20%. Yes, when I was littler, so browser games, 22%. No, never of interest for me, a good 7%. And no, only watched as an external, someone else playing. This is also something interesting. It's a new phenomenon as well. It's not only by playing video game by ourselves, which is interesting, but it is interesting also to follow someone else more expert to play. And if you reflect, there is nothing really different than looking at a football game on the TV or something like that. It's the same kind of investment that we can give on. So it's interesting also this aspect. Then I asked them, would you have liked if educational forms of games have been incorporated into the curriculum at school? And the most of you said yes, and a little percentage said no, and very little percentage said, I don't think it is possible. Well, as a matter of fact, it is possible. And there are many schools which now are starting to introduce video gaming into their curricula, as this research, which is very interesting, shows up. This is Transforming Education with Minecraft, and this is a product of the Canada research team. So it's also this something which is quite impressive in my opinion. Finally, the metaverse. The term metaverse has been created in 1992 by Neil Stephenson for his sci-fi novel Snow Crash. Next year will be 30 years of this begin. Since then, it has slowly acquired global recognition mediated by movies like Matrix, which is of 1999, the most recent Ready Player One, 2018, and by the economic success of video gaming as an industry, which has bloomed by now, one of the most important industries at the moment, even if yet not fully recognized. In a very simplistic way, it can be described as a melding of the physical and the virtual worlds, and it is the next evolution of the internet. The metaverse is not just about owning lands or assets, as many fashion brands are doing in recent days, but it's about building communities. To be part of such a community, though, there is the need to speak a common language, which is based on shared knowledge of the most important terms, protagonists, relationships, and such. Knowledge that most of us don't have yet, and we are still building it up. And up until now, for most of us, this is something that was not yet fully explored, as you also said. But the first Metaverse Fashion Week has been held just now, March 23-27, 2022. So it's time to learn and to be part also of this world. I put also a very interesting video, if you want to go, it's on YouTube, Why the Metaverse is Fashion Next Goldmine by the Business Fashion Show team, actually. And it's very interesting. It's a 15 minutes video which speaks about why the fashion industry would like to enter into this game or not. There are also the problems that we were talking before. For these reasons, I wanted you as a student to explore the iconography and the imagery related to video games, just as a starting point to start from somewhere, making a little bit more digging inside, no, this different aspect. Take it as an excuse maybe, but it's just a way to get nearby in a more professional and serious way to something that apparently is often a little bit neglected or overlooked. So, to the question, which of these characters from the video game world who has been an influencer testimonial in the fashion imagery of recent times did you already know? The Sims were the winner with a 28%. The Sims have been created in the year 2000. Followed by Mario Bros, which has 23% of you knowing them, despite its age. Next year, Mario Bros is going to be celebrating its 40th anniversary. So it's a long time for a video game. And it's part of the pop culture, actually, at all the effect. And a good 20% knew already Fortnite, which is the most recent, so it's logical, it's part of your time. It was created in 2017. Pokemon, though, had a 17%. 1996 was the first Pokemon release. And Lara Croft followed with a 10%. A 3% admitted they have never heard of any of them, and no one reported Ezio Auditore, probably because you haven't connected him with Assassin's Creed, which is one of the protagonists of that. So, this was the last question of the questionnaire. Were you aware of the many influences between the world of video gaming and the one of fashion before this research? And it was interesting, your answer. Only a quarter of you was aware of the link between this imagery and the world of fashion, even though there are now many brands that collaborate and have collaborated with the video game industry as a whole. Probably, the blame and mistrust with which, in general, people still look at this sector that, I remind, moves millions of dollars every year, has prevented us from taking it into consideration in a more serious way. But maybe time has come to approach the multiple worlds of imagery with more attention. And you see, a sort of was the half of you answer. But there was also a good 28% between you that said, no, I was not aware of these links, of this contact between these two aspects. I arrived to the conclusion. The final question is this one, and we will talk about this shortly with our speakers. Is there a job out there for all of you? Undoubtedly, we will need more and more imaginative fashion designers capable of focusing on the outside of the real world, capable of inventing new jobs and new perspectives. This will also give new life to the design industry. Maybe technology will also teach us to consume differently. This is my hope, and can be a sustainable aid to our voracious desire of novelty. No longer something to wear and forget in a closet, or worse, in a landfill, but to wear to be someone else in digital form, maybe, or to explore our deepest identities with the help of an avatar. Maybe we could buy something of better quality for the real life and enjoy the novelty online on our socials by looking and buying strange and new attires just for the socials. Why not? So through research on iconic characters of the video game and digital world, and thanks to the contributions of the experts in the field, which now will follow, we will discover a little bit of what the metaverse is, if it can be a help or an obstacle to our future, and above all, if the thousands of forms of it with which we are already in contact can encourage creativity in the fashion industry or not. And so, thank you for your attention and enjoy the next speakers.
Thank you, Sarah, and also for the work that you have done with our students, bringing them along on this really amazing journey, learning about the metaverse. So now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Antonello Macho. She is a professor at the Department of Political and Social Sciences of the University of Bologna. Antonello, who I would thank very much for coming to see us from Bologna today. Antonello does research in qualitative social research in communication and media. Her research is focused on the role of fashion, celebrity, and gender in the media. So today, Antonello will speak to us about the metaverse, fashion, and TV series. So thank you, Antonello.
Thank you for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here with you today. Thank you again. When preparing this presentation, I started with a question: what is the metaverse? And so I'm connecting to Sarah's speeches before. The word metaverse appears for the first time in 1992 on the pages of the cyberpunk novel Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, and represents a shared virtual reality that can be accessed through the agency of an avatar. The term was immediately used to describe online spaces that are reminiscent of those in Stevenson's novel, since they are also accessible to users through the use of avatars. It was the late 90s, and the platforms where these experiments were taking place were called Active Worlds and Second Life. They were equipped with three-dimensional graphics in which avatars moved, created objects, had relationships, and above all, took care of their wardrobe. In a short time, these environments began to host shops of indigenous brands together with high fashion brands. What has changed since then, and why are we talking about the metaverse once again today? Over the years, the concept has taken on other meanings in view of the transformations of the means of communication, the internet in particular, the evolution of augmented reality technologies, and of course, the use that we make of all these. Metaverse means experiencing being in presence in highly communication environments, from being online to participating in a game session in connected mode, to viewing and managing digital objects in the physical world, and much more. The metaverse is configured as a purely medial territory. It is located in the internet spaces and offers us the opportunity of graphing the digital into the world around us, with blurred lines that move inside and outside the screen. In order to understand the metaverse, by taking into account its specificities in the field of communication, we should observe what is happening in the media sphere and what are the transformations that are taking place there. If considering transmedia storytelling as one of the most frequently used dynamics by contemporary media, we cannot fail to observe the functioning of the metaverse within this frame. It involves thinking around the narrative forms that move between multiple media, helping to refine and integrate the user experience. So let's start by observing the contemporary media scenario, where there are various communication proposals that fashion presents to its users. In some cases, these are experiments which have acquired the status of real formats by using narrative methods that are placed at the crossroads between once separated worlds. The fashion films are an example, in their bringing together the methods of artistic, musical, and of course advertising audiovisual productions. In the field of television, titles of TV series dedicated to fashion have emerged with increasing frequency, thus becoming a real separate subgenre. The figure of influencer, and we call about Chiara Ferragni, and I use her another time because you know in Italy she is a sort of big opinion leader. So the figure of influencer, now recognized as a determining factor for many cultural spheres, was born together with fashion blogs, so early 2000s, combining knowledge, passion, and communication skills in a single person. Today, these figures can build a narrative that crosses the different frameworks of online and offline worlds, from the blog to Instagram and Facebook to the most recent apps from TikTok to Twitch. They have also evolved in the direction of too cool digital. Virtual influencers are more influential than ever. You can see here, for example, Nonuri, maybe someone know her. So from Lil Michela, with 3 million followers on Instagram, to Blanco, Nonuri, Imma, and many others. In other words, we are faced with a narrative of fashion that crosses different and constantly evolving media spaces with multiple voices and languages, and includes the metaverse for some of its digital articulations. Are virtual influencers, for example, part of the metaverse? What do the images portraying them beyond digital boundaries show? Is it the digital that enters the physical reality or vice versa? In this presentation, I will try to focus on specific examples connected with fashion, the importance of the brand in the composition, the importance of the brand in the composition of complex and transmedial narratives, the fashion show as a peculiar moment in the communication of the collections, the recent connections with the worlds of gaming and TV series. In this journey, I will try to highlight how brands are taking into account the importance of user participation, an essential dimension of the process of expanding the transmedial narrative. In following the thinking of Jenkins, it is possible to highlight how important the promotion of the interaction between the consumer and the brand is, and how necessary it is, especially with respect to the gaming universe, to make the user interact with other consumers in relation to the brand by creating connections inside and outside the digital environment. The audience's involvement is, in fact, an indicator of engagement and performance, which is essential for increasing the enhancement of the brand. Firstly, however, it is important to reiterate the importance that communication has always had for fashion and fashion for communication. The constant introduction of new and disrupting elements has in fact characterized the fashion collections of the last few decades, as well as the promotional campaigns of the brands. Fashion participates in the cultural dynamics of society and makes changes visible, starting with the variations occurring in the clothing style. For Zimmel and Veblen, Barth and Blumer, fashion has held a central position in their reflections, thus becoming an object of study in itself and at the same time a sort of filter for observing social rationales. In fact, clothes, bags, and glasses acquire both a collective function through their recognition in public and an individual value, defining the features of uniqueness and authenticity in the individual use being made of them. In a sense, fashion communicates and makes reference to narrative universes in which two areas come together, the materiality of clothes and the meanings and imaginaries to which they refer. Fashion is a complex system based on creativity and rigor rules as necessary in the production of clothes and accessories as in the implementation of communicative projects. The importance of fashion in determining new communication possibilities has been highlighted in different periods through specific tools. The goal has always been to provide an answer to the expectations of the public or to amaze and surprise them with innovative ideas. It is therefore possible to say that fashion presents itself as a communication device in itself, capable of telling stories through objects, practices, styles. In other words, fashion proposes its own language based on recognizable codes together with constant transformations. In recent years, fashion has involved the fans of a given brand and the media audiences with innovative communication proposed, such as outfits for characters linked to game wars. I show you Fortnite, but I know you are experts in gaming, so probably you know this. If, as Jenkins writes, transmedia refers to a story told on different media for which each single text offers a distinct and important contribution to the entire narrative complex, then the examples that fashion proposes fit fully into this context, even if with the specificities of each case. These are multi-platform projects that in some cases, also recalled the Metaverse, are capable of bringing different users together with the aim of showing them a possible, defined, and furnished world which can be accessed from multiple touch points. Although the moment of utmost institutional communication in fashion consists in the presentation of the collections that are held at specific times throughout the year, the importance of these shows does not end when the models walk on the catwalks thanks to the media opportunities. Besides the preparation of the shows in a specific physical space, the narrative lines being evoked concern, in fact, a before and a after, shifting the attention from the catwalk to the media universe accompanying it. And in some cases as well, the use of the metaverse is starting to take hold. This year, as Sarah said before, the first Metaverse Fashion Week was presented, in which over 60 brands participated, and where several avatars with NFT clothing appeared, even in the audience. All these enables a multiplication of possibilities of viewing and participation for the users, consumers, who sometimes seem to be taken more by these texts than by the actual fashion outfits. Back in 2011, Burberry organized a fashion show in Beijing, in the premises of the Beijing Television Center, focusing on the connection between the real and the virtual. The event took place live worldwide thanks to live streaming broadcast on various platforms, on the Burberry website, on a number of partner sites, and in 50 retail theaters around the world. The models in Flesh and Blood were accompanied by their animated holograms in a perfect phygital style, experimenting with an absolutely innovative way of presenting the new collection. Phygital, you can imagine, stands for physical and digital, and the idea of phygital also refers to the concept on life, coined by Luciano Floridi. The contiguity between the physical and digital environment has thus guided the audiences towards an interaction on multiple levels, all united by a single narrative and transmedia framework. The show, therefore, produced a multisensory effect on the attending audience, as well as on those connected in streaming, through the various languages used in a synergic way, including music. In this scenario, the brand has taken a double stand, certainly pedagogical, indicating to the audience the way to observe the elements present on the scene, placing them within a single system where metaverse and physical reality are co-present. And at the same time, also reassuring, because through its identity and its heritage, Burberry has managed to show the consistency of its proposal. As important as it is, the fashion show is not the only moment where the brand and its audiences relate with each other. The big fashion houses, like the more casual companies, are adopting a series of complex communication and interactive activities to get closer to their clients. In some cases, to achieve this goal, the semantic area which the brand refers to is expanded or moved to unusual territories, little explored until a few years ago. The use of multimedia tools and languages is part of many innovative projects in the fashion world. The pandemic period, as we said before, has further solicited the creation of an audiovisual narrative, increasingly connected to today's most frequently used forms by audiences. This type of narrative has become part of a complex production and consumption territory, where the boundaries defining the differences between textual genres appear further blurred. A significant example was the Gucci Fest event. From an idea of Alessandro Michele, the Maison's creative director, to present the Spring-Summer 2021 collection. Proposed online in mid-November 2020 as a series with a cast of professional actors, such as Silvia Calderoni, alongside philosophers, choreographers, poets, and songwriters such as Billie Eilish, I'm sure you know her, and directed by Gus Van Sant, the project raised a lot of interest. The hybridization between two different communication goals, the presentation of a collection and the chosen format, purely television, the TV series, highlight a whole series of features clearly pertaining to the transmedial approach. What the Gucci Fest has shown is, first of all, a further expansion of the narrative world linked to Gucci. In recent years, the brand has in fact developed a series of communication campaigns offering its audience a possible, extremely complex and dynamic world, and I'm sure you know some of them. In line with this strategy, in 2020, Gucci launched the Accidental Influencer Challenge as the second chapter of the campaign for the promotion of the Gucci Tennis 1977 sneakers. The success was immediate and particularly significant, especially from the point of view of the transmedial rationale. Users appreciated the proposal and followed the brand's invitation by inserting their own videos connected with the challenge, as in the most successful transmedia communication projects. The images and clips produced by Gucci for the event were followed, commented on, shared on various social environments from TikTok to Facebook and Instagram. Another example involving Gucci in the gaming metaverse is the collaboration with Tennis Clash the game created by Wildlife Studios for mobile devices, an environment particularly known to Generation Z, where starting from 2020, the characters can also wear Gucci clothes. Of course, Gucci is not the only brand to have collaborated with the gaming world. Following a reverse approach, namely by using the gaming environment as an inspiration, Moschino launched a capsule collection inspired by The Sims, and we talked about The Sims before, in April 2019. The collection used some iconic motifs from the famous video game, adapted for clothes and accessories. At the same time, a Moschino collection was also presented within the Sims game world to dress up avatars. In addition to the skins, a stuff pack was also added, a mini extension of The Sims entirely dedicated to fashion and made by Moschino. In 2019, Louis Vuitton as well entered into a collaboration with Riot Games, a famous video game company, which led to the creation of the trunk for the Summoner's Cup, the trophy for the League of Legends World Championships, and some skins designed for female characters available for purchase for gamers who want their avatars to wear them in-game. The creative director, Nicolas Ghesquière, has also dedicated to the game a capsule collection available in the offline world called Louis Vuitton for League of Legends, consisting of men's and women's sportswear. The examples relating to the arrival of brands in video games and vice versa of game aesthetics in clothing therefore marks a further connection between media world, metaverse, and the physical reality that we once separated. Fashion helps to amplify the gaming experience and, at the same time, defines connections with the real world through the use of recognizable brands. If then participates in gaming performances and at the same time extracts, as Jenkins put it, some trace of those words to show them in the garments, making them available to consumers in the flesh. In other words, the levels of involvement that fashion offers are many and different, since fashion itself is conceived as a medium, capable of adhering the different narrative forms or adapting them according to its own languages. It seems, therefore, that fashion, precisely by its very nature, is capable of opening itself to the contamination between media formats and genres, therefore to new possibilities and experiments. Video games, as we have seen, are a very effective example of these dynamics, actually extending to other universes as well. Let us think about the life of designers told in biographies, websites, documentaries, and in many cases in film productions, which today have also turned into television serial narratives, defining universes of reference capable of melding reality and fiction and becoming part of the shared cultural heritage. In this way, the brand further expands its world building, composed not only of collections, clothes, heritage, but also of media productions that amplify the narrative aspects. In many cases, contemporary TV series approach the world of fashion, as in Emily in Paris, The Connection, Stranger Things, Halston, Gossip Girl, and, of course, Sex and the City, creating connections with gaming platforms on different levels. For example, The Crown and The Queen's Gambit, for which Netflix and the Brooklyn Museum have created a virtual interactive exhibition dedicated to costumes. The experience offered to users is that of moving in a three-dimensional graphic space, adopting the perspective of the gaze. A few years ago, an area in Second Life was dedicated to Gossip Girl, a sort of transposition of the series into that specific metaverse. Through their avatars, participants could connect with the virtual lives of the characters, follow them in their favorite locations, and participate in the gossip activity, fundamental in the television version, directly in-game. In these cases, the pleasure of storytelling is expanded and prolonged through gaming activity. Mad Men, another important TV series set in early 60s New York, again in the Second Life metaverse, has worked similarly. More recently, for TV series such as Stranger Things, sessions have been made in augmented reality, where the costumes have played an important role. Fashion is therefore configured as a communication universe capable of extending the possibilities of transmedial dynamics by using different narrative models and formats to meet the needs of an increasingly sophisticated audience with increasingly defined tastes. Videos, promotional products, social environments, recent application of the metaverse, together with brands, designer labels, clothes, and accessories, thus become touch points of a possible continuous expanding world capable of providing new and unusual narrative itineraries. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Antonello. That was fantastic. So we are going to take a short break, let's say 15 minutes, and I look forward to seeing you all back here after that. There's a little coffee shop outside, and thank you very much to our speakers so far, and we're looking forward to hearing from Sarah and Omar after the break. Thank you so much. Okay, welcome back. So now I have the pleasure to present Omar Rashid. Omar is the co-founder of Gold Enterprises. He's a filmmaker. Oh, I can take this off, right? Oh, so much better. Sorry, let me start over. So I would like to present Omar Rashid. He is the co-founder of Gold Enterprises. He's a filmmaker, a writer, a producer, and he is specialized in immersive and interactive media, virtual and augmented reality. So we're really looking forward to seeing what he's going to present to us today. So let's give a hand to Omar. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. I apologize at first for my English, because it's not my first language. And as I said, I used to study fashion. I used to be with Sarah, a Sarah student. And I always work on, before going at school, I was a writer, graffiti writer. So my approach is always based on this, how can I say, like the idea that I can get a space without having it. So like all my business career, I based on try to do everything without big budget, and that's my approach even in virtual reality. That's something that I'm gonna tell you what is my research till now. But I would like to start with graffiti, because it's something that, as I said, it's really important for me for the approach. But the other passion that I always had is cinema. And when I first, I've been always a watcher. I used to go, still now I'm going to the theater at least 3 times a week, and I love cinema. So when I discovered the virtual reality as a audiovisual tool, I decided to focus on that. But I want to clarify at the beginning that virtual reality, it's split. I don't know if you already discussed about that this morning, but it's split in 2 big words: 6D off and 3D off. 6D off means 6 degrees of freedom, 3D off, 3 degrees of freedom. What does it mean? 6D off means that when you wear a headset, you are in a virtual world where you can move inside the world, interact with stuff and everything. 3D off, it's something that it's probably much more easier, because it's the only interaction that you can have is moving your head inside the content. But for me, that I'm coming from this passion of cinema, watching a movie from inside, it's already something, how can I say, like incredible. So I start to work on virtual reality with the idea that, and also it's much cheaper, because to film something, it's immagine it. Io? Vabbè. Okay. So, like when I start to watch, to think about using these tools, I try to think about a new media and how, like, people that make the history of the cinema approach the new media when it arrived. And that's like my like my idea was, okay, I want to work in this field. I want to try to create something and to create the rules, the grammar rules of this new language. So the biggest inspiration is like the big master of cinema, and especially the Lumière brother and Georges Méliès. Why? Because the Lumière brother are the one that invented the cinema. Méliès is the one that he was an illusionist and is basically the one that creates science fiction, fantasy, fantastic movie, because he bring his knowledge of illusion to this new media. And that's like the idea that I had at really first. So like the first time that I watched something in virtual reality, the first thing that really shocked me was the idea to like the first video that I saw was a demo where the watcher was bring to some place in Mongolia, and so like the teleport how can I say, like effect that he create is something that shocked me at really first. And that's like the idea that like the first project that we did was bringing the people inside immigration hotspot that we always watch it from regular media from a certain point of view. The idea to be inside was really strong. Then, like, this is another project that I did in India, or this is another that we did in Iceland, where a volcano just born, like, last March, March 2021. And so filming that spot in that time is something that can bring the watcher close to the volcano. And the other thing is, and that's like the same thing that Lumière brother did it at really first. So bring the people to show to the people some really far place, really forbidden place. For example, this is one project that we did in April 2020, the first lockdown. And I start filming it the day after that the lockdown started. But I had to wait a month to have all the permission to go around Italy to film, because wasn't easy. Of course, the problem of the institution was much higher. But then again, like, we have something that can show to the people what was being inside the content. That's like the most incredible thing of like this technology, that you can freeze the time and show some places. I had the fortune to film that stuff, but whoever can watch it had the feeling to be in that specific place. For another example, I watched a few years ago a VR video called Everest VR, and that was basically a ride inside the Everest. But the memory that is left to me is that I've been there. I know how and what you see on the top of the Everest. The only thing that I can't remember was the freezing, because I watched it not over there, but again, like, it's something that in the memory side it works and is really effective. About the other side, I start to analyze and try to propose something of the Méliès approach that was basically start to using, this is, okay, this is, hold on. Know if it starts. Okay. This is like the original movie that it's really simple. Like the idea of Méliès was to recreate some illusion that he used to do in the theater, but for technology. And like his ideas was, I mean, really simple. Was invisible cut. So like he cover her, stop it, cut. I mean, do the action to remove the girl, and then cut the part where it was doing the switch. And I mean, it's something really elementary, but still it's something that this is made in the end of the 18th century. Now, like in virtual reality, I did the same thing with the same concept, but in 360, it recreates something more magic. Because if you think that when you wear the headset, it's like that you are inside the car. And I did the same thing, like when she go totally down, we stop, she changed her clothing and came out with another clothing. But the effect is that it's immediately. I mean, the switch, it's, you know, like in a second. And that's like, okay, this is finished. Is to, you know, like re-elaborate something that it's under the eyes of everybody. The other idea is still Méliès, the one-man band, where he replicates himself a few times, and same thing. Like in this case, the idea is simple, is overlapping the subject several times, and then like he composes a okay. What I did was the same thing with one drummer, and again, like we did everyone sung a part. I mean, in this case, the idea is that together they compose a song. Each one did his own part, and filming together, it seems that, again, that you are inside an environment with 3 times the same people. And again, it's really simple, but with this new media, it's something really effective. The other side that, I mean, bringing from more than 120 years of history of cinema is that you can, you know, like use all the knowledge that it's been studied for years and bring it back to something new. The strongest thing of virtual reality is that as I said, it's something that you are inside the content, and if you are immersed to some content, it seems that it's happening right now. So it's really close to the theater in some way, that if you miss something because you're watching somewhere else, it's just gone. You can go back. I mean, of course, in VR, hypothetically, it's a video, so you can watch it again and again, but the strongest sensation is that something happened right now. Again, like this is another project that we did. In this case, we freeze like the other actor to try to, I mean, not try, to express what was the thinking of each one, and this is something that in the theater you have to do it in a different way, more. I mean, like this is for example, is adaptation of a theater piece, and in the original one, to recreate the effect of the thinking, the light was down and there was just a occhio di bue, come si dice? Spotlight on the actor that was thinking something. So we can recreate that it's create some special effect in some way. I'm trying to go much faster. The other thing that I was saying is the time machine effect. So you can you can freeze the time and recreate, like in this case, this is a science fiction made before the lockdown. So in this case, to get Florence empty, I did lots of shooting at the sunset, like at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was starting a lot of morning filming, but in this case I did in the opposite way. So I did first the empty space, then I put the camera back in the same spot during the day, and so I can create the effect of the time that was passing. But why I said that it's a new language and it's not something like cinema that we already know? Because the rules are changing. For example, like this is one of my favorite example that in the cinema, like when you watching camera, it's calling breaking the fourth wall, and it's something that bring you off from the storytelling. I mean, unless it's made as something that that thing became part of the storytelling, like for example Deadpool, that it's like his peculiarity is to break the fourth wall. Usually you never do it, because in some way, like if you interact with the audience, you break the magic of the illusion that is something that is outside from you. In virtual reality, you have to, because being inside, if you are not as the image that we saw before, if the actor in this case doesn't talk to you, you are not involved. So that's the first example that how the rules are changing. And most important thing in this kind of technology is remember always, and that's I mean I'm talking about cinema in 360 3D off, but I think that those are kind of the rules, the basic rules for all the virtual reality, because what I'm trying to do is to be one of the most that are analyzing the rules of this new technology. But of course, if you're thinking about 6D off or more interactive experience, all these rules are still worth it to know. I mean, something that can, of course, we are talking about narrative, about storytelling. So, but as you said before, fashion is always is still a storytelling to for the customer. I mean, like if you are not part of a story, like if you don't feel part of a story, you feel far from whatever is the content, that is some fashion content or some movie content, whatever you want. So in VR, you have always to think that the public is the protagonist. It's the main character of your story. And in this case, like, this is a project that we did. We want to be, in this case, specific character. So in a certain point, you always, you even see yourself as a character with this mirror effect. But the idea is always remember that you don't have just to, in the case of video, just to change the camera and film more stuff. But you have to think as a new language, as something new. And this is just to be more on focus on the video, like the analog special effects are still stronger because you feel, if you film something, you feel that it's real. Like in this case, this is a alien abduction. And when you watch it with VR, it's much stronger, even if it's dirty, like you see the pixel and stuff, than doing everything in CGI that can, you know, like bring much more quality, but still you feel it. And in virtual reality, in this moment, like you feel it a lot, the difference. Even it's better to work with low quality, but more ideas than high quality, because you always feel that it's fake, that is virtual. But the video, it's something that still you feel it. This is another. This is on a set of Diabolic, is a comics, Italian comics. Again, like being on the set is something that everything seems more real than some, how can I say, like render, high quality render. And still going around, I mean, like, as I said, I'm working on trying to understand the rules of this new technology, and also it's important what's happened from outside. In this case, like what I show you now, it's a really simple thing that I just bring two artists and the technology to create another content. In this case, he's a calligrapher, he's a musician. We found this program to write in virtual reality. Having someone that is good to write with some music, it's already a show. This is another comics artist, Italian, the same thing, like someone that try, because that's like we did 30 minutes of preparation before the show, but even see someone that know how to design, trying to design something in virtual reality is really strong. Another thing is that when someone has like this is like the headset, and so basically like you lost the view, and if you have the headphone, even the ear, so you can work on other senses. In this case, like we did this show that basically they was listening and watching something, but with fan or like smoke or like jump. In this case, you add more senses, so make the experience much more immersive. Like in this case, they was let them sniff some perfume or something like that. So like you can work on that. And the other part is when you have when you wear a headset and you are watching some content, you move. because you are inside a content. And that's another layer of exploration. So like you can create some content that let the people move. In this case, this is my wife works. My wife is a dancer and choreographer. So like she creates some project where let the people move. And in this case, you create, like choreography without that the people that are the performer know to perform. So as I said, right now you learn a lot from the theater because it's something that it's really, really close to the language of we are working. Because as I said, it's something that seems that is happening right when you watch it. And so like this is in this case, this is a play where all the people that you see now are not really audience, but are actor. So like the idea is to recreate the idea to be in a theater. In this case, this is Elio Germano, is a really famous Italian actor, and basically wrote a piece where like the idea is the main camp, but you know just at the end. So to try to explain how easy it is to manipulate the people, the idea was you are in a theater watching a show from this actor that was himself at the beginning, that was at the beginning in close to the audience, like playing with them, then slowly go up to the stage, and slowly like he start to theorize like really bad things, and all the audience were applauding him, so following him, and that's like something that at the beginning you like you follow him even if it's a bit borderline, then start to understand that something is wrong, but was really effective to create this play in VR because you can create a show for a single audience having all these actors inside. And this is another idea of like create something really spectacular but really close to you. In this case, those guys was a theater company that was playing in like huge square around the world, so like 3,000, 4,000 audience at show, and so something that you can see from really far. The idea is, okay, let's do the same thing but really, really close. For concluding, like to cover, like all this part, I mean, to complete the research, it's okay to work on the content, but you have also to work on distribution, because that's the main problem of who's making movies or even clothing, because I start with my fashion company, like my activity I mean, I still have a streetwear company, but I'm moved to somewhere else. And so like we bought, now we have 200 headset, and we do like projection for like a lot of people. Right now we have like 3 shows that are going around Italy. And again, like working on this field before the pandemic arrive, give us also the perfect content to show, like during the lockdown. And in this case, like same content we did like the delivery. So like every day we give to the people an headset. They watch the movie that was a theater play and bring it back the day after. And so that was a way to show, you know, like to bring the theater inside the home of the people during the lockdown. Those are some of our works. That's it. Thank you.
So now we all want to know where we can go and see your films. So you have to let us know. Thank you so much. I want to enter into your world. So now our next speaker is Sarah Janasi, and she is an illustrator and a concept artist who has applied her skills to a lot of different areas, such as animation, gaming, children's books, and other sources. She has designed characters, costumes, and scenography. So kind of answering one of the questions that Sarah ended her presentation with, Sarah Piccolopachi, that is, Sarah Janasi is going to speak to us on there is a market out there, illustrations and visual development, art from pencils to digital. So thank you, Sarah.
Hi everyone, I'm going to present myself. My name is Sara. I live here in Florence, and I'm an illustrator, children's book and middle grades book illustrator, and visual development artist for animation. I'm very pleased to be here with you today, and I'm going to speak quickly about my school background and my work experience, and also I'd like to give you a taste about the several job possibilities that a creative designer like you can meet out there with digital art. So let's start. Okay. I started my path studying fashion design, exactly costume design and scenography at the University of Architecture of Florence, where I graduated in 2007 with Sara Piccolopachi, which has been one of the best teachers I've ever had. And after that, I found my first job as a textile designer for a lingerie brand in Pistoia, which is a city near here, called Pratesi Casatex. And I worked there for 3 years, designing prints on fabrics, embroideries, also dealings with graphic design and also photo shooting. Meanwhile, I attended a modular clothing school called Angela Vagitei in Prato, a city near here too, the city of fabrics, where I've learned how to put in practice what I have learned during the university, during the school. So I learned how to create paper patterns, sew dresses, and all those kind of stuff. But after those 3 years of experience at Pratesi Casatex, I realized that the things I wanted to do most wasn't to work in a fashion world, but I really love to create the design itself, drawing, paintings, and telling stories with a lot of details and decorations, which was the things I could do best. So I decided to stop working and starting again with school. And for this reason, I attended the Nemo Academy School of Digital Arts here in Florence, and the course of entertainment designer, and I stayed there for 3 years. And it was there that a whole new world full of possibilities opened up to me, because until then I was convinced that digital took away space from creativity. But after the school, I realized that it was vice versa. Digital arts was a very great and strong tool to develop my creativity. So after Nemo, I decided to visit some fairs around here in Europe, in Italy and in Europe. One in Bologna, which is a city here in center of Italy, and the fair was called Bologna Children's Book Fair. And the other one in France, the Festival of Animation, International Festival of Animation in Annecy. And it was there, in those two places, that I find out my two new jobs. One as a freelance children's book illustrator or middle group books illustrator, and the other one as a visual development artist, starting as a layout artist, freelance layout artist. Then I went to London working in a TV series called 101 Dalmatian Street, which is a Disney TV series. And after that, in the last 2 years, I have worked in Madrid for a feature animation movie called The Adventure of Taddeo Jones 3, made by Lightbox Animation Studios, which was one of my biggest goals and biggest dream. So after this, I'd like to show you some of my artworks, just to show you what I did during those years. So, okay. Here, I'd like to put some example of the who works I have done since I started my path in this profession. So starting from pencil, just to connect the title of my speech. And so I put some pencil artworks, ink, oil paintings, oil paintings, frescoes, watercolors, sculptures, and also for fashion and costume design, I just put some example for which how do I say? I had a traditional approach too. So I used to draw with pencil on paper, watercolors, and just realize my designing by sewing and doing paper pattern. So from traditional, from pencil until digital. And I divided my digital artworks in 3 groups. One is the publishing. Those are some examples of my publishing artworks. At the bottom you can see some publishing houses, international publishing houses I worked for. And those are some works I produced for them. And what the publishing houses are looking when they ask for me at my agency, which is a sound agency of illustrator based in New York, is my vintage touch, as they say. At least they like my traditional vintage touch tied to this digital approach, which a mixture between past and modern approach. And they really love also the amount of details I put on the costumes or into the interior design. which comes from my background, from my fashion and costume and scenography studies when I was at university. So, in this slide, I put some works I did as a visual development artist for animation. Those are personal artworks because I'm not allowed to put my last works because the movie are gonna be released on this summer, so I can show, I'm sorry, but those are a selection of works I put in my portfolio to propose me as a visual development artist, both for environment and characters. And as you can see here, what the animation studios are looking for is not just the final piece, like the final design of a character or of an environment, but they really loved to see my way of thinking, the brainstorming, the way I used to research, the picture I can take as reference, or the sketches, the poses, layouts, which leads me until the final piece, the final concept. Something the same as you do with fashion design, because the important is the way which leads you to the final piece, not only the final piece itself. Until game, I didn't mention before, but I also worked 2 years as a texture artist for a video game studio based in LA, which is called Nico Production. And here, what I should do was to paint in 2D in a program like Photoshop, as you know. You can see in the picture in the center, I had to paint the concept art, which was given to me, the first one at the left side, called in T-pose, because you should see the front sides, the side and the back, and paint into D, and that contemporarily check it in a 3D program like Maya, for example, which is the last one at the left side. You could check what I was painting in 2D in the 3D program, and see I could rotate, move the character, and check. Just to give you an example, is something as you are painting or drawing something in a paper pattern in 2D on the table, and that put on the mannequin, so it becomes 3D. So it's something very connected, but in digital, to your world, because it's from 2D until 3D. So, until now, I had given you some example from my own experience. So, publishing, the world of animation, the world of gaming. But here, I wanted to draw up a list of various creative professions, many, but not all, because they are constantly expanding, and neither I know the whole job profession which there are out there, but which can be found. Those are some of the profession which you can find out there with the digital world and fashion, which often travel hands in hands. In fact, if you analyze some of those jobs, which are jobs in animation basically and in game, for example, look design, look artist, is strictly connected with fashion, because a look designer is given the character designer from another artist, and he should design a series of variants, proposal in colors, in the character dresses, weapons, accessorizes. So it's something very similar, very connected with the world of fashion. Instead, a character designer is a bit different because it's to create the whole character from zero, taking in mind his role into the story or into the game. Give him here a shape, some colors, clothes, connected to his personality and to an established iconography. Because, for example, if you should design a bad character, you should use a very strict shape instead of rounded one, which are most suitable for a good character. So there is a full word, an established iconography in which you can you can use to create this character basing on his role inside the story. Something connected with fashion too. And for example, fashion and costume designer. Here I put some works made by two different concept artists, which generally works for video games, but those two could easily be covers for some fashion magazine designed by fashion designer, and also for illustrator and illustrator for publishing or for comics. Many illustrators are also fashion designers and vice versa. In fact, here I put at the left side an example of an illustrator which usually works for the Hermès magazine. So illustrator for fashion, illustrator for comics, and also comics usually are looking for fashion designer just to design the suits, the dress for their character. So those words, game, animation, illustration, fashion, are strictly connected in digital, especially in digital. And there are many other examples. So I would like to conclude my speech saying that there are several possibilities offered by the digital world. As you can see, there is a big digital-related market out there. New technology-related jobs are continually being created. So there is always more space for everyone. Just the digital world offers you the way to connect, not only in the only world of fashion, but with other fields. And those fields, as I had tell you, are constantly being created, are expanding. So there is work for everyone. And just that's all. I conclude my speech saying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It's always wonderful to learn about new opportunities for the skill set all our students are developing. So at this point, we would like, oh, actually, I can turn the lights up. We would like to open the floor to questions, just for some reflections about what we've heard today. Does anybody have any questions out there? Let me turn the lights up. Maybe next person could come up and make the question here. Okay, the question is, should we be afraid of big tech, you know, kind of influencing us because they are already taking, if I'm paraphrasing you correctly, Maya, because they are, you know, taking so much information and following us, and should we be worried about their influence on our participation in the metaverse? Would someone like to take that question?
No,
Yeah, you can take it off.
Thank you. No, I don't think we have to be afraid about metaverse, because we have the power to use it, and we have the power to choose what we want to do inside the metaverse. So we can decide in every moment what we want to do. It's not so different from our daily life outside of metaverse. And it is important to have the right knowledge. Yes, it is important. So it is important to know, to have competencies to go in this kind of world that is just here. So it is not a sort of strange things we are thinking about, but as I tried to show you, we talk about metaverse since 2000. Yes, since 2000. So we are in, and yes, we have to know. As we thought before, we were taking a coffee talking about this point. We have to know which audiences we are talking to. So it's important to understand where we are and who is watching us, and to consider these kind of things. So to have a competence in the end. Yes.
I think that all the technology is a tool. So like it's the content that make the difference, as Antonella said, like the approach that you have with it and how you know it. But it's not, I mean, like social network are can be something that it's really dangerous, as we see like during these days, but also should be a powerful tool if you know how to use it. For example, like by myself, I use it just to show what I want, not all my life. And part of my life is totally off the social network or online. And again, like when I first know the virtual reality, I thought, as you said, like something that should be dystopic as a scenario that it can become. But again, like I said, okay, this is a technology that exists. I can do nothing to stop it unless create some high content or some content that has some value. Or, for example, as I said before, we create the collective screening instead than just ship the headset to someone. We did it during the lockdown because there was no other opportunity, but I prefer the social interaction on the social in the real life interaction than the social network interaction. And so, like, it depends of who use it.
See, and I want to add just one thing. The most important aspect is our critical thinking. So it's up to us. As they said, it's a tool, but it's up to us. We are responsible for what and how it goes. So yes, it can be dangerous, but yes, it can be profitable, can be interesting, as everything. As everything, they are tools. So we don't have to be scared simply because we are alien to them. We have to know them, we have to understand how they work, and then we can use them quietly and to produce interesting things. But it's up to us. And this is something that I feel we really need to understand very well. We are co-responsible of our reality in the future.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes.
So like as Gen Z, like I feel like growing up, like social media has definitely become like an addicting thing. So like how do you think you could prevent, because like you were saying, like we can like kind of decide for ourselves, like older people, but like how for like especially younger people, would you recommend to like prevent the addiction of like being addicted to like things, like how like social media is addicting? How do you think like you could like lessen that or like prevent that from happening?
No, ho capito. I think that there is.
So your question is how to you know, how safe is this world for young children and how we can protect them from addiction? Was that your question? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Okay, for everyone, just how can we prevent becoming
I
lost?
think it's impossible. It's like how do you preserve the people from tobacco? Like it's not just writing them that is dangerous that you can prevent. It's again, it's up to you. It's about your sensibility. It's about like of course for the children, like by my point of view, it's to take them out of it, to prevent.
Yeah, I agree. I think children, but this is just my opinion, until 12 shouldn't use too much mobile or other kind of stuff like that. After 12, they could start with a parent helping him, because it becomes a very dangerous tool if you don't know how to use in the right way. But this is just because I often see a lot of parents giving yes, everything to their children, even if they are 1 year old. And for me, it's very crazy. And I won't do it because it's a fight. I do have a child, he is 16, and I didn't give him a mobile until 12, but now it's a fight because he's a teen, and even if I didn't give him anything. So I think you have to be very, very, very careful and guide the children in this process, which is amazing, which helps a lot, watching animation, doing research, but with the help of a parent. I think, well, this is my opinion.
Okay. From a sociological point of view, studying media, of course, age is an important point, but media literacy is working a lot towards in this direction, sorry. So media scholars think that it is important to give the right tools to young people, so give them right knowledge about how to use them. And so I'm not in the same position, not so against these tools, because also from a psychological point of view, they are a part of the identity now. So they are really important for young people. They are tools with which they connect with their other friends. So in sociology we said pair groups. And if you don't give them this tool is like to take them in a closed room. So it's no, the balance is not easy to find. But what scholars do in this moment is to work in media literacy, so in giving more tools to young people in the right way to use this kind of tools. And yeah, connecting to Sarah's discourse, because I have a kid at the same age. The problem now is connected to pandemic moment, because all parents worked a lot before the pandemic moment in giving to kids the right time to spend with this kind of media stuff. But you know, with pandemic, all the young students started to use 24 hours a day screens, so computers, tablets, or smartphones, and so on. And talking with teachers in high school, they say that now it's impossible to stop with this kind of habit, because still at school they have their smartphones close to them, because they use them for research too. Of course, not only for this, but at the moment it's really difficult to give them the right time to use these kind of tools. But on the other hand, yes, I think it is important to give them the right knowledge, because they need of these kind of tools.
And I want to reconnect to the second part, actually, that you asked for us also. I mean, not only for children. For children, there are a lot of things and a lot of studies, but for adults, maybe less. I think that we live really in a very important moment. And I think it's very important, especially at your age. It is, I think, a unique occasion to learn how to use the future. I'm thinking that we have the opportunity, the possibility to better use the tools that the mankind has created till now. Really, I believe this is a step moment into the evolution of the mankind. And we can do a good job or a bad job, depends. It depends how much we know ourselves. Because all the problem of the addiction is about how we know who we are. Addictions are often something that take the place of something else that we feel we miss. Every addiction is like this. So the same is for this stuff. It's easy. It's here. It's easy. But it's easy as a smoke, as a food, as drug, as a sex, as everything. So addiction have always existed. Maybe we have now the knowledge to understand when and how to stop these addictions. But we have to know ourselves. That's again where a critical thinking approach comes in. So we have the opportunity, the possibility, and also the challenge. And it's again up to us.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes.
Let's see, is that Talia? Yeah, Talia, what's your question?
Talia first, and then, okay.
So my question is kind of related to the expansion of the metaverse in a way. My question is kind of why are we prioritizing the expansion of the metaverse in a way when we realize that it's not healthy? And post-pandemic, we realize that human beings are social creatures and we need to be together physically and emotionally to connect on that level. So my question is, why are we prioritizing expanding pretty much a virtual world when we realize that that's not healthy and that's not the way that humans are meant to connect. When we, like ourselves said, that it's apparently our responsibility to learn how to cope with that when it's constantly just being basically forced upon us as a society in a way. There's constant new innovations and new scientific explorations in terms of the metaverse. So my question is basically, I guess just why, when we realize that it can be so dangerous.
The answer to your question is very complex, actually, because it's not so easy to say that the metaverse is not healthy. We don't know it, actually. And I can guess it's not. I can guess it's not healthy. I can guess it's a tool like many others. It's like the movie system. It's like the fashion system. Can we say that in the fashion system everything is idyllic? No, probably not. But this doesn't mean that we don't want to work in it. Okay? So what is interesting and what is important is that these are tools, and it's a tool that your generation is going to explore. This is also part of what it has been said at the beginning by Antonella. It's part of a narration. As human beings, we like narrative. The metaverse is part of the fantastic imagery that it's part of the mankind since the very beginning of the mankind. It's part of us. We wander. Think to Dante's comedy. It was a travel in the afterworld. There was a lot of sin there as well. But there was also the possibility to imagine how to change the reality. So it's part of our nature, probably. And it's something that we like to explore. It's there, we have to explore it. It's like going on the moon. It's like going in other planets. It's like every travel that we do. It's the journey that we like. It's also what Sarah said. It's the journey that we like. When she goes to show her portfolio, they want to see the concept that she followed, not the journey, because it's this that we like. The metaverse is just another journey. Omar, you wanted to say something as well? No.
I totally agree with what Sarah said, because again, like a tool is a tool. Like a knife should be used to heal or to surgery in the medicine field. So it's not the problem of the tool, it's the problem of how you use it. So what we can do is study, try to create something that has some value inside, don't use it for, like just making money or, like create, but for example, like as I showed before, like showing how was Italy during the lockdown, it's a document that should be interesting, not just entertainment.
Then there was another question.
Oh, sorry. Maya, did you have another question?
Yeah. So my question is, NFTs are still relatively new, and I feel like I've read a lot of discourse about them, like a lot of people are strongly against NFTs, but I've also read some interesting cases for them. What do you think about NFTs and what direction are they heading in?
About the NFTs.
Posso dire io?
Yeah, okay.
I think that exactly the how can I say, like the evil aspect of the technology, because like the possess of something that doesn't exist is like the maximum expression of capitalism. So that we saw is something that is not so healthy or not so good for our society. So personally, I think it's something that, of course, it's a business. Of course, it has some value. Of course, for some artists, makes sense. I don't want to say that again, like it's another tool in some way. But the way how it's been concept for me, because it's also content. It's not just a box. It's something that I don't really like it, because for my point of view.
See, and you remember at the beginning what I make a citation of the April Fool, actually, but these words were interesting. Real-world artists and designers who are angry at the fact that NFT objects are selling for higher prices than their physical creations. It's true. It's true also the angerness, actually, that we feel. Why these works and my beautiful works doesn't work. Are they something positive? Are they something negative? I think that we will discover it. I have no idea, honestly.
Maybe we have time for one last question. Anybody? I don't see any arms. Are we good? Okay. I want to thank our panelists, our speakers. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I would like to do the video now. So I'm going to leave. Wait, don't get up yet. Wait a minute, I have to turn the lights down. Sorry.
We have another little kika for you.
So now,
Kika.
is that all the way down? Okay, now I'm going to turn the floor over to you for the last word. So can you run it? I don't know how to do that. How do I turn this one off? How do I turn this light off? Somebody turned it on. Hello? Who turned this light on? I don't know how to do it. Christian, can you... Puoi spengere la luce sulla... Puoi spengere questo? Grazie, scusate. I'm not ready for the metaverse. Thank you, Christian. So, if you could start the video. Thank you. So, the word to the students.
Che disastro. No, però quando sono scesa dal treno dicevano che c'erano delle persone che bloccavano la linea su Roma Tiburtina, quindi mi aspettavo qualche sorpresa. Deve essere c'è qualcosa. Sì, allora era un piccolo video. Ecco, aspetta che ci mettiamo in posizione.
So before taking this class and learning about Metaverse, I honestly had no prior knowledge on the gaming industry or video games, but I definitely find it so interesting. I didn't know anything about it going into it, and I'm not a video game person, so I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I wasn't aware that a lot of what people involve themselves in for entertainment is part of the Metaverse, and before even the semester learning about it, I had no idea that the Metaverse existed, and to me it's a very intriguing idea and world that exists without me even knowing about it.
Before doing the Metaverse assignment, I never really had any interest or knowledge about video games because the only games that I ever played growing up were mobile games on my computer or my phone or my iPad, like The Sims. But I did an essay on Dark Souls, the video game, for the Metaverse assignment, and I thought it was really interesting because I found it had a lot of parallels to real life, such as the Christian religion and also the potential Big Bang Theory, which is obviously really popular in science.
In my research of the game Tomb Raider, I found it really interesting to see how video games can have history and see the progression of just games in general and how having a strong female role really impacts a lot of gamers, especially since a lot of games have a strong male lead role. So with this game Tomb Raider having a strong female role, this was a really big breakthrough in video game history.
And I think it was cool in some aspects and scary in some other. I think it was really cool for the idea of like business, but like business and like creating online, but I think once it becomes part of a lifestyle in terms of like living life in a metaverse, I don't really like it.
I think that it's really, really cool for people to be able to indulge into a different atmosphere and environment where they feel most comfortable instead of maybe present day life, maybe their situation that they're in that they cannot change. But as for the metaverse, they can make it however they want. They can make it their own reality, and I think that's really cool and special because it allows them to express their own individuality. But at the same time, I do think that can be a little bit dangerous because it's not as healthy for people to completely disconnect from current reality. I think there still needs to be some sort of meeting point between the metaverse and what's actually happening in current life.
Okay, so I did Jill Valentine. I did Jill Valentine for my Metaverse project, and I did not think I was going to be this inspired by a video game character. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, I get inspired by characters in movies, and I just never put two and two together that you could do this for video games too, which is very cool.
Really impressed by the steampunk style of the characters and also the various references to pop culture throughout the whole series. I've learned that the Final Fantasy characters have already had a huge impact in the fashion industry with references to them in collections from Louis Vuitton and Prada. And the opening of the metaverse and for more opportunities to come, I'm excited to see what these characters are going to do. Thank you.
Before coming into this research, I was a little bit aware of Pac-Man, but I didn't realize how popular and worldwide it had become. It has influenced pop culture tremendously because it has been on cereal boxes, cartoons, clothing, even a song was made about it. Pac-Man is also the first non-violence video game, and it was also the first video game to have an iconic mascot to it, paving the way of every other video game after. I was surprised to learn that Pac-Man is the most successful arcade game in history, and it's just crazy to think how such a simple arcade game can still be popular till this day.
My overall experience learning about Solid Snake was an enjoyable one. I'm a big video game fan, and I love the series Metal Gear Solid, so getting to learn more about this iconic character was actually a really incredible experience. Seeing how much of an impact that he's left on the video game world was something to actually really take in and admire because Hideo Kojima has made one of the most iconic characters in video game history with an extremely incredible legacy. So overall, I really enjoyed the project.
Learning about the metaverse was a really interesting and eye-opening topic because I didn't realize how much of my everyday culture through, even if it's not firsthand experience, but my everyday culture of stuff I grew up with is a part of the metaverse. My essay was on Pokemon, and I didn't realize that metaverse is an alternative reality, but Pokemon is too, and it has such a large fan base that there is definitely a future for the metaverse.
Before starting my research with the metaverse, I knew very little about it or the impact it had on the fashion culture. More and more as we dive into the metaverse, more designers will move to online and will be designing clothes for online characters.
Connecting the game world and the metaverse world with the fashion industry is groundbreaking. We have already seen the fashion industry dipping its toes into the metaverse. Brands are using virtual reality to have customers try on clothes virtually to see how they fit on their bodies. Customers are creating avatars for themselves, then they buy clothes from brands to put on the avatar. Overall, I'm super excited to see the endless possibilities that will spark from the virtual reality and metaverse world.
Doing the Metaverse project not only taught me more about the construct of games like Fortnite Battle Royale, but also showed me the kind of impact fashion is having on this up-and-coming universe. I saw that brands like Balenciaga and Nike teamed up with what seems like an unlikely partner and created something totally unique in the gaming world. I observed how these brands are making these games personalized, which in turn makes for a more interactive gaming experience. Overall, I saw how the world of fashion is meeting the world of gaming and making something completely new and unique.
One thing that I have learned while researching my topic for the metaverse, which was Assassin's Creed, was how the video games can really be used to expand your knowledge of history because it has a historical background, which is super cool because it's an immersive experience which could really help people who don't resonate with a typical learning style to learn more about history while also being entertained during the game.
The part that I found most interesting about researching the video game was the setting of the video game Persona 5 actually takes place in what they call the metaverse. So I found it really interesting that there was the metaverse inside of the metaverse in a way. And although the real life metaverse that we use in this day and age isn't necessarily used to fight demons, I found it interesting that the kind of personalized cognitive spaces that they use in the video games, we also kind of use in real life.
Because the whole concept of it seems like something that is not rooted in reality at all, but it's something that brands have already began to utilize and that has already affected our lives.
This workshop was really interesting because I had never really thought about video games as a form of cultural communication or sort of a multidisciplinary project that can really actually comment on philosophy and fashion and stuff. But the game I chose was really involved with all of those. So it was really interesting to do that and to think a lot more about it. And I honestly think I have a lot more respect and a lot more interest in being playing on play.
My name is Trevor Cecilia, and I'm somebody who had a little bit of previous knowledge on the metaverse and somebody with a deep appreciation for media itself and the internet. Taking an opportunity to further research this idea and some of the stuff that it involves allowed me to further build an appreciation on the topic. And seeing how other people reacted to their topics and stuff, and seeing how many people were unaware of these ideas and how much they relate into current society today, seeing how they were able to further develop that knowledge and appreciation for it, I thought was really inspiring, especially having the opportunity to research something that I'm actually kind of passionate about and like. So learning more about that was extremely interesting, and I'm glad that I actually took the time and had the opportunity to further develop my knowledge.
I think this Metaverse project was something that was needed for Kent fashion students. My beginning impression of this was a lot of confusion why fashion was tied into video games, and leaving this, I have a completely different expectation for it and a completely different mindset. I think that a lot of the lecture and the research and the essay topic really made you immerse yourself into this metaverse and the video game world and see the impact it's had on retail and the fashion industry as a whole. I think this has a lot of a more positive experience on people than they realized in the beginning. I think a lot of people like myself were a lot of in the dark shadows on this topic, but have really had their eyes opened.
And and if I can, I would like to add a comment on this. You have been really very good. Me and Pat, we looked at each of your little video with your little audio. I read all your stuff you wrote, which we can discuss about, but okay. But really, we both appreciated a lot the fact that you were putting yourself first front into the comment, into the engaging us and yourself into this little workshop. Next time, though, you should edit a little bit yourself, though, now. Having a little bit of hair made, if you want to have a look, you want to make a makeup, I don't know, something like this.
Okay, we have to learn how to do avatars.
We tricked you a little bit, but it is very precious. No, apart from kidding you a little bit, it is very precious what you did, and we appreciated really what you said. It was interesting to see how from a topic that I'm sure the most of you, when we started to say we are doing this workshop for you, and you were saying, why we are going to do this stuff, and then slowly you get inside. So it's interesting, and it's very, very appreciable that you played with us a little bit. learning is also a little bit playing together. So I really, really, from my heart, thank you for having participated to this. Thank you.
So, me too. See you guys tomorrow morning. Bye.
Ciao. Abbiamo fatto presto in realtà, abbiamo finito molto prima del previsto, penso.